So hi everyone, today I'm excited because I have another guest who's going to come on the show to talk to us about their experience making use of virtual assistant, the successes, the challenge and all that. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to have this guest come on here, tell us a little bit about their business, what they do, so that you can get some insight and some context as to why they even had need for virtual assistant in the first place, so that you can take some of the ideas that they share and then implement them in your business as well. So today I have Alan Vincent from mybusinessinbrazil.com. And Alan, before we continue the interview itself, I want you to introduce yourself to the audience and tell us what you do.
Okay. Glad to be on the show. I appreciate the opportunity, Owen. And again, my name's Alan Vincent, and I have a management consulting business called My Business in Brazil. The website is My Business in Brazil. The company is Brazil Business Solutions, LLC. And Brazil is part of the BRIC, the four countries, Brazil, Russia, India, and China, that are four very emerging economies right now. And, I've taken my 20 years of business experience and political connections both in Brazil and the United States and developed a consulting business. I'm a dual citizen, of course, and fluent Portuguese speaker with lots of connections in Brazil. So I'm very able to help companies as a middleman, as a person to help set appointments, and even I go to Brazil to help represent a company, for example, at a major trade show for their industry. So if they wanted to have a presence at a major trade show related to their industry in Brazil without even having to go to Brazil, they could send me instead.
Definitely.
So,
and I was trying to find out too. How did you even figure out that there was a need for the service that you provide right now? Because you said the BRIC countries, Brazil, Russia, India, and China. But how did you come up with that? Figure out that there was a need for it, and also how did you even determine the need for your business in the first place?
Well, there's a lot of, first of all, if you pay any attention to international news and international business, you'll see Brazil in the news quite a bit. So there's a lot of companies right now, or Brazil, I should say, is in the news quite a bit on a macroeconomic level, hot economy. You'll hear people say that Brazil is like the United States in the 1950s. So they're experiencing a boom in construction in a variety of industries. Brazil is also, going to host the 2014 World Cup. And the economic impact of the World Cup on South Africa was huge. And Brazil obviously stands to benefit from the World Cup. Just 2 years after that, they'll host the Summer Olympic Games in 2016. So it's going to be a really big decade for Brazil. And then, of course, Owen, the other thing is that I am a Brazilian dual citizen and a fluent Portuguese speaker. So it's a niche that I enjoy working in. And so all of those things kind of came together to be, sort of a... this is a startup. There's a growing demand in Brazil, and so there's an opportunity for people like myself to help to make those connections and make those introductions and, help a company get started in Brazil.
Definitely. I like how you found the need for something and you started the process and you're out there actually implementing on the idea. And now let's walk our audience through how did you even come to the point where you realized that you had need for a virtual assistant in the first place?
Well, I actually have another business. I started this company in 2010, just a few months ago, and for 15 years I've been involved in another business, and so I knew that I had developed a lot of skills in that business, such as blogging, email marketing, even implementing social networking, and building a virtual, if you will, network of people. And so I certainly know how to do all of the things that I've implemented and had a virtual assistant start doing to help me, because I've learned how to do those things. I know what needs to be done. I may not be an expert in any one of them, but I do know from a 50-foot view, I know what needs to be done. And so since I do have a whole nother business to work on, I would be limited in how quickly I could ramp up and accelerate the growth of the new startup if I was left to the work that I could do myself. So it was important to leverage my time, and the best way to do that is by using the services of a virtual assistant. Today, with technology being what it is, there's a whole lot of work that can be done in the background while you're working on something else.
Definitely. So I see what you're saying is you had this other business that you were working on. Now this new opportunity comes up. You want to work on it, but you realize that you don't have that much time in the first place. You have certain ideas that you needed to have implemented for this new business to take off, and the idea was to put down at least maybe brainstorm on what you needed to, what kind of tasks you needed done, and then go out and find the people that will help you to implement that task for the new business. Just so that the audience understand what you're talking about specifically, what tasks at this point when you were brainstorming the task that needs to be done, give us some insight as to what you felt at that point before you even found the VA, what you needed to be done for the new business.
Sure. Well, the first thing I did was, or some of the first work that was done was to reserve a domain name, to find a domain name, and that domain is mybusinessinbrazil.com. Well, that was easy. That took a couple of minutes on GoDaddy.com to get the domain that I wanted. But I wanted to implement a WordPress blog, and there's a difference between putting a WordPress blog on just WordPress's website versus a hosted version of WordPress. So that had to be installed, a hosted version of WordPress. And I didn't want a plain vanilla out of the box WordPress. I wanted to have a custom implementation with a custom look. And so I was able to successfully navigate finding a one person who designed kind of a logo and look and feel. That person was a virtual assistant in another country, and then the very same person installed WordPress around that theme, and then trying to step back in my mind through sort of the steps, and then once the WordPress site was built, I could get into the back end and start to to add content myself. I mean, I know how to do that. And then gradually, I found another virtual assistant to do backlinks, search engine optimization, and start to take. So rather than even having to log into the WordPress backend myself and play around with the interface, and that's all time-consuming stuff. Again, I know how to do it. We've gotten it down to where I can just send articles that I think would be good content for the blog, and then she just posts that material for me in a way that she's kind of learned how I like it to look and where I want it to be positioned on the website. So once we kind of got through some of those preferences, if you will, once the virtual assistant kind of knew, and she's done a terrific job of just keeping up with the content that I feed her and sending out an email newsletter. We use MailChimp, which is.
I use MailChimp too.
Do you?
I love it.
Yep. So we use MailChimp, and my VA sends out 1 or 2 emails a week to my Brazil Business Solutions mailing list, and she makes sure that those email newsletters and those emails that go out also get posted to the blog. And then she's looking for ways to backlink and create links back and forth from my site to other sites and that type of thing.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you say now is you had several tasks that you wanted them to work on, and so you had someone who actually, and after buying the domain name itself, you had someone who helped you design the WordPress website, implement everything, and basically had it working so that you can now come in and upload information, or your articles, whatever, via the dashboard. And then
Right.
is this a separate person now that now also you hired to take over the constant update of the WordPress, or is it the same person?
Nope, got a new person that does the continual updates on the websites and so forth, and her and then I have yet another virtual assistant who is really a very good researcher, and is available to me at a lower rate than the WordPress setup guy had a slightly higher rate. The WordPress administrator has kind of a middle rate, and then I've been able to find a lower rate person that does excellent research. I was going to meet with a CEO of a medical supply company, and it was important for me to put together a nice report on the leading medical supply resellers in Brazil.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know the number one, the number two, and in order I wanted to be able to show him the data of what kind of medical supplies are sold in Brazil. Well, I know how to find that data, but I would have spent hours and hours and hours putting together a spreadsheet that I think I probably paid less than $20, when it was all said and done, to have a virtual assistant put together a really nice report for me, because I had someone in place to to do that work, rather than me spending 6 hours of my time putting that research together. So
Definitely, and one thing people might say, I can just quickly do it, but yeah, you can quickly do it, but then you're not spending time doing what's the high income revenue generating activities that you could be doing, so you're actually losing money. I guess that's the point.
It's true. It's true.
I guess.
Well, to go along that same point, Owen, I was able to send an email that took me a few moments to compose an email to my virtual assistant and say, this is what I want. I want a report that that has all of this information in it, and I want you to spend a maximum of this many hours compiling the data. I think I gave her a parameter of how many hours, and I was very specific. And then I sent that email. My time to put that email together was about 1 minute. And then I proceeded to work for the rest of the time that I would have been finding the information. I was working on my PowerPoint presentation and practicing and rehearsing the presentation that I would give when I was actually in front of the CEO. So the research was a really small part of the whole picture, which was to, when I get in front of this guy, I need to have good data, but I really need to present, the entire thing well, why I would be a good consultant and how I could help him in other ways other than just, here's the data, So it allowed me, and then a few hours later, sure enough, the spreadsheet came in that had all the data that I needed. And so, I had spent that 3 hours polishing my presentation rather than, digging up, trying to find the data, if that makes sense.
And that's kind of the thing where it's like you have your virtual assistant working on the back office stuff, the time consuming stuff, while you are focusing on, working on how you can even create that relationship with the prospective client. In this case, it was the medical company here in the U.S., and so you're focusing on the high income activities. And I'm sure it's going great right now, because I'm sure you've gone through a period where you had to go through challenges of actually finding the right virtual assistant, to now where things are going great, where you have the right people on your team. But sometimes I always want to work through the challenge part, because there's some also lessons to be learned in there as well. So during the process of trying to find this virtual assistant for your company, what were the challenges that you faced?
Well, that's a good question. I had to vet out a few different virtual assistants in order to get the the ones that really had the right skills. And So I actually, I designed, I designed some tests that basically allowed me to evaluate, how their English was and how well they understood. And I had them complete a couple of small assignments, writing assignments and things like that. So, I was looking at how quickly they could return a couple paragraphs to me, and I won't give away all of the specifics because.
No, actually, can you do us a favor and give us the specifics? Because I'm thinking that I want to really make this interview now really about how you found these people and the system you use. Because in the email that you sent out, you told me how you had a system. I wanted to come from you, but I want to learn more about that system that you use to find these VAs and basically have this system be a test where all the prospective client VAs were tested on. So now you could take out your subjectiveness on when you're interviewing them, but view it based on the results they deliver based on the test. So let's talk about this test.
Okay. Someone is trying to Skype me, so I'm just telling them that I'm online. So I apologize. I have someone in Brazil was trying to dial in. So, at any rate, I will be as specific as I can be in the amount of time that we have. But one of the issues that you have is not finding somebody who purportedly has the skills that you are looking for. That you'll, if anything, have hundreds of people that are applying. If you put some kind of a posting out there, or if you solicit any kind of help from a virtual assistant standpoint, there are an enormous amount of people that will respond.
Hi everyone, we're back. We got disconnected via Skype. It always happens every now and then, but we're back. So, and we were going into the details of how you were able to, create the test that you use to kind of objectively have each of the candidates that were applying for specific positions be tested by those tests, and that way you can make a decision that makes sense on who was the right candidate to pick based on the results that they delivered to you after they've taken the test. So just starting from the beginning process of when how you created a test and how you had them do it.
Well, what I realized was that I was more subjective, and so I needed to create an objective way to evaluate the candidates. So what I did was I created a series of tasks that they had to perform. The first task was measured their creative writing ability. They had to write a 200-word story, for example. I also tested in that phase their ability to share that with me rather than emailing it to me when it was finished, to share it as a Google document. And so I didn't...
Why did you do that though? Instead of just email, why did you do it on the other way where you're making it a Google document?
Simply because I use Google Documents very often in my business as a collaboration tool. For your audience who are not already familiar with Google Documents, rather than volleying a Word document or a spreadsheet back and forth with your virtual assistant, Google Documents allows you to both work collaboratively on the same document at the same time. So it's a valuable tool. For example, if you wanted to have a virtual assistant updating contact information about some of your contacts and so forth on a spreadsheet that you could look at any moment and see if she had contacted some of the people. If you wanted to put a task list on a spreadsheet and sort of pop that spreadsheet open, you would actually, and if you and I had the same Google document open at the same time, and you were changing words on it and I was changing words on it, we could both change words on the document at the same time. So Google Documents is a great tool. So really, I didn't get into explaining how to use Google Documents, but the candidates that already understood it or figured it out quickly, how to create a login, were able to advance more quickly to the next task, if that makes sense. And so, the candidates who moved, through the course a little quicker, I realized were a little more resourceful. or already had a command of the technology. I do a lot of scheduling and appointments and so forth. And to accomplish that, I use a tool called Tungle. Have you heard of Tungle?
I actually interviewed the CEO of Tongu, Mark Gingrass, actually, not too long ago. Yeah.
Okay.
Tongu, yes.
Great. Well, I use Tungle, and so, the second task, for example, was they had to request an appointment time using actually, that was about the third or fourth task. They had to request an appointment with me on Tungle. And used the Tungle interface off of my website in order to set a time. So, the set of tasks was all done by autoresponder. In other words, they would send an email to my email, and the subject line was they were supposed to send it in a specific way with a specific subject line. And my database was set up that day so that when it saw an incoming email with that specific subject line, it automatically replied with the next task. So it was all run by itself. I didn't have to sit there and read each email and send out an email in response. They were automatically emailed the next task as they completed the first one.
Wow,
so
that's impressive. I mean, you're saying you set it up all automatically, even to the point where, as they're delivering the results, it's going into your email system. When he sees a specific subject line, he knows to deliver the next instruction.
Correct.
I just had to say
Correct.
that.
So that was, I was out doing other things that day. I was out on appointments while everything was kind of happening. All of the candidates were emailed the same instructions at the same time on the same day. And it was like a race. It was like shooting a gun and saying, "Okay, everybody start," And literally, there was the very last task was a face-to-face interview on Skype, where I got a chance to meet and talk to the candidate face-to-face via Skype and measure their personality and put an eyeball on them and see what I thought of them face-to-face. But that was the very last step. And what we found is that we started with 20 candidates that all got the original email. And quite a few of them eliminated themselves or were not able to follow tasks and had to call us on the phone and call and say, I never got the second email or I never got the third email because they hadn't followed the directions quite well enough. And so, we allowed that to eliminate those candidates, and at the very end it was very clear that it was between about 4 people, and then it came down to a personal interview and really a situation, one candidate stood out simply because her situation, the times that she had to work and the time zone that she was in and so forth all matched up better for me in terms of the times that I wanted her to be working. So really, we got down to those final details in a face-to-face interview, and it was very clear, at the end. One virtual assistant, for example, had a conflict at the time that we were supposed to have our conversation. She had work to do for another client. Well, there's nothing wrong with that, but I realized, gosh, if she has a conflict at the time we're supposed to have the interview, perhaps she'd have conflicts, a lot of the time when I had things that I needed her to do. So I realized that maybe she seemed good. She had the technology down. She wrote a good story. She did a lot of things, but that eliminated her, not by any fault of her own, but, that eliminated her. So I had a very clear winner at the end.
Definitely. And that's brilliant, because the thing is, you knew that you had an issue, not being objective enough when you were going out there on this website trying to find the virtual assistant. And what you did now was found a way to look at, you brainstormed on all the different tasks you needed done. And what you did was basically create, tests that basically mimic each of the different environments that they will have to be in order to accomplish each of the tasks. And then you gave them the instructions on how to, get each of the tasks done. And then what you also did too was so that you don't have to go back and forth with sending emails. You set up an autoresponder where once you're done with one certain task, you send in the response with following instructions on how to send in the response. Then the autoresponder immediately sends them the next step. And what I'm hearing from what you say is that you had all this list of people who applied for the job, but the whole process itself helped you to whittle out all the people who didn't qualify, or maybe you were just saying stuff that they had all the experience and all that, but yet now it comes to the pedal to the metal, they couldn't do it, and now at the end of the day you were the people who actually were able to do the job, and at that point that's when you sit down with them and basically get to talk to them and find out if this is the right person in terms of personality or maybe the right cultural fit for your business to hire them. That is brilliant. I like that.
Yeah, it was very much a cultural fit. Some of the tasks actually involved speaking to people who I know and trust and getting their take on that person's phone voice. Is this somebody who could actually talk to my clients on the phone? Is this somebody who could actually make phone calls and set appointments for me? What is their working environment like at home? Are there, those kinds of things all came into play, and they were vetted out because of the way we created the interview process. The interview process, the tasks, if you will, were very much tailored to my business based on, the technologies and the tasks that I would need them to perform. I created the test to reflect things that I knew they would need to know how to do.
And what you said is actually very good, because some people might just, so I want to get started with this process. I want to make sure that I'm not bogged down by all these people applying for my tasks that I wanted to work on. I want to systemize this whole thing. But the whole process of just sitting down and taking the time like you did to break it all out and make it the process of finding the right VA into an automated system like you did, they might feel challenged by it. I'm sure they might definitely have a lot of questions for you, and I want as many people who have questions to forward their questions to you.
Sure.
And before we end the interview, really, I really want to put any of the listeners who are about to take that step to actually take that time to do what you did. What is that word of encouragement that we can leave them with to encourage them to try it and do what you did?
Well, you mean from the standpoint of starting their own business, or
from the standpoint of actually even trying to they have a need for a VA now, and they
Sure.
want to put out the word for the VA, but you took it to the next level. Instead of having each of them sending you emails and stuff like that, you put them all through a system where you tested them to find out the right fit. And so anyone who probably wants to do this and maybe might feel overwhelmed by the entire process to even set this up, I want you to leave them with something that will give them that encouragement to do that.
Well, ultimately, I think we can all agree that there are so many people who are looking for an opportunity. Where there's a lot of unemployment in the United States. There's a lot of unemployment. So the issue is not going to be to find people who say they want to work for you and could do the job. That everybody's going to say that, but we're all, I think business people by nature are people persons, and so what I realized was right away, I had a lot of resumes, and I talked to the very first candidate and realized I spent 40 minutes on the phone talking to one person, and I had 20 other people that looked good on paper. So that wasn't going to work. And I knew that there was a way to find the right person, and I also knew that I needed to really measure specific things. But when it was all said and done, I think that it's very important to just remember the old adage that a little bit of preparation will save you so much time in the long run. And sit down, don't be in a rush, think it through. And really, just design a plan and then implement the plan. And one of the biggest thing is trust yourself, because you will have the intuitive ability to design a test or to kind of gauge, if you sit down and think, what are the things that somebody has to be able to do well to help me, what is it that first of all, what is it that I really need them to do? Because, if you don't run your business in a way already that is efficient, then having a virtual assistant is just going to amplify the inefficiencies of your business. So you have to have an efficient operation and a very defined task in mind for that virtual assistant, and then test them very definitively on whether they have what it takes to do the task. So, if a task doesn't need to be, if a task isn't clearly defined, then maybe nobody should do it,
I love this. This is a very good way to end the interview. And just before you go, how can anyone who wants to get in contact with you, how can they get a hold of you?
Sure. My website, first of all, my email address is alanv, ALANV, at jtvinson.com. That's the best email address I've had, jtvinson.com. That's my communications company, alanv at jtvinson.com.
Yes.
And, you can also follow me on Twitter at Alvin Gator, ALVINGATOR, Alvin Gator, on Twitter. So
Thank you very much for doing the interview, Alan. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, it was a pleasure, and I hope it helps a few folks out there who are trying to get started and kind of bogged down with how do I find the right virtual assistant? What would I have them do? It's hard to let go of some of those things, especially if you kind of know what to do, but you can't do everything yourself. That'll kill you.
Definitely. Thanks for doing the interview. I appreciate it.
Sure, absolutely,
so
Owen.
We're done. So what do you think?
Oh.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed today's interview. And before you go, I want you to do me a favor. I'm trying to build my community of entrepreneurs who find my content useful on Facebook, so we can engage, have discussions live right there on Facebook. And to get to my page on Facebook, you go to www.facebook.com/HYVASSISTANT. And again, it's www.com. What am I saying? No, it's www.facebook.com/HYVASSISTANT. And when you get there, what you're going to do is look for the a button that says like, and you click on that button, and then basically you become a fan of the page. It's that simple. You don't even have to leave me your email. Just click on the button that says like. And again, the page to go to is www.facebook.com/HYVASSISTANT. And that stands for HYVAssistant. Real easy. I look forward to seeing you on Facebook. Have a great day.